I think it's relevant because it always sets us up that only one person ever does it, and that no one's ever involved. It's the old lone nut thing. And really, most people think that John Wilkes Booth was probably a lone nut when he truly was not.
So if they're not lone nuts, all these assassins throughout American history, what are they? Are they all part of this a similar movement, different movements?
Well, it's hard to say. You know, they all, the ones in the 60s all had a common denominator except the Kennedy murders. But if you look at Malcolm X, if you look at Martin Luther King, and if you look at John Lennon, all of them were under heavy CIA surveillance when they were killed. And I, being a former Navy SEAL, understand that before you do an op, you do plenty of surveillance and plenty of intel work to make sure it goes correctly. And the real only common denominator to the whole thing is the CIA.
You think the CIA might have had Lennon killed?
Well, there's a good possibility because Mark David Chapman was very strange. If you read about how that killing took place, Lennon was under heavy CIA surveillance. Reagan had just won, and Lennon was making a huge comeback at the time, and they thought that he could galvanize the left because he was very liberal. And Chapman, if you look at his background, it's nothing like what the media told us about. The media told us he was infatuated with the Beatles, infatuated with John Lennon, and that's why he killed him. That's not true at all. In fact, he could have cared less about the Beatles. His actual favorite musician was Todd Rundgren, and he hated guns. And yet the night he killed Lennon, he dropped into a professional shooting position, put 5 rounds in Lennon that a drill instructor would be proud of, and then his most strange behavior was when he was done. He had 3 opportunities to escape. He could have either ran into Central Park, he could have got onto the subway a block away and disappeared, or he could have just disappeared on the Manhattan streets. Instead, he backed up into the shadows, dropped the gun, pulled out J.D. Solinger's Catcher in the Rye, and was reading it when the cops arrived.
Governor Ventura, you know, I hear that and I think, so why? Or how, more interestingly? I mean, do you think he wasn't deranged, or do you think that the CIA drugged him?
I think he very well could have been. You know, you know about the MK Ultra program of mind control and all that. That's all documented in the 50s and 60s. There was a good chance, in my opinion, he was what you would call, quote-unquote, a Manchurian candidate.
So do you think that stuff works? Because I was never under the impression that they had successfully done that.
Well, on my television show, we looked into it, and I think that it absolutely can work if they have someone for over a year, because hypnosis is a very powerful thing. And you can't get someone under hypnosis the first time generally to commit an act of violence or a crime, but you certainly could do it over, say, a year or two if you had control of that